Hey, I've been hiding something from you. Well, not hiding exactly, as it's supposed to be invisible. Let me explain. In every video I make, I work hard to show you my aquariums the way I see them. Clean, vibrant, underwater masterpieces. But there's one tiny detail that I have left out. CO2 bubbles. As you probably know, I inject carbon dioxide gas into all my aquariums. Why? Because it works. Plants grow better, a lot better, healthier, more colorful. Yet, this drives me crazy. This fizzy haze of microbubbles filling the water column from the inline CO2 diffusion. So I've quietly done the same thing every time I hit record. I turn the CO2 off, wait 15 minutes, and then film. All to capture the details in 4K and spare you from having to see the annoying fizzy carbonated water that ruins it for me. And that is just the beginning of the CO2 issues in this tank. Hello, I'm Jeff Miyake. Welcome back to the channel where I share cinematic builds and glimpses into my aquascaping workshop. I'm between builds right now, so I thought I'd show you a project I've been sitting on. Okay, so this is the current method I'm using. This is an inline CO2 diffuser. CO2 gets injected here, water passes through. This membrane here chops the bubble that comes in here into tiny little micro bubbles, and they get sprayed all over the tank. It works okay. As flow rates change based on if the filter is getting clogged up or not, changes how much CO2 goes into the tank, and as this membrane gets dirty, it changes the amount of CO2 going into the tank. So it creates instability. So here's the solution. The CO2 bazooka, the CO2 Yugang horizontal reactor. So again, water comes in, CO2 injected here, water comes out. The difference in this, there's no membrane in here. So the idea is a gas pocket of CO2 is created in here as we inject it in. The water passes by that CO2 pocket and the CO2 dissolves into the water. No bubbles. And I'm no expert on this reactor, absolutely not. This is going to be challenging, but the wife is out of town, so it's now or never. Okay, before we get into the new reactor, I want to show you exactly why I'm making the switch. Let's start with the obvious one, fizzy water. Every day my tank fills with these tiny CO2 bubbles. It's annoying, especially when I've gone to great lengths to create an amazing viewing experience. Low iron glass, lily pipes, suspended lighting, and strong filtration. And then you've got soda water flowing through the whole scene. I've tolerated it for years, but the more I film, the more it bothers me. Then there's the algae. If you look closely at the right side of the tank, it isn't intuitive, but this side is farthest from the CO2 injection. You'll notice it. A bit on the leaves. It's a telltale sign that gas distribution isn't even. It's not enough to crash the tank, but it chips away at the balance. While the left side has the CO2-enriched water flowing into it, and as a result, the plants are freely purling and there's no sign of algae. The growth rates between the two sides is noticeably different as well. Oh, and something else that frustrates me, when I turn off CO2 for filming, sometimes I forget to turn it back on. So I've learned the hard way, I forget, but a timer never does. Yeah, and while we're at it, flow seems to be a problem as well as the plants grow in. You can see on the left side, there's stagnant water at the top, which defeats my surface skimmer. While we're tearing everything apart, we might as well solve this as well. Okay, so we're gonna do a test first on this tank behind me before we put it on the big tank where I have my fish and plants, which I'm really attached to, and I don't wanna hurt anything. So the way you dial this reactor in, the strength of this reactor, is how you orient the outflow. If you orient it like this, we're going to have a big gas pocket, making it more powerful. If we orient it like this, less powerful. So we're going to pick somewhere in between to start this test and then dial it in from there. Yeah, and I want to continue to use my Waza filter. I want to continue using the pre-filter. I want to continue using my biomedia, and I want that heater. So I'm looking at putting this in kind of like a bypass mode by removing its impeller and then installing this pump to drive the whole system. This will hopefully increase the flow because we're going to have a lot of extra tubing, which is a lot extra friction, which slows down flow. So hopefully this will work. There's only one way to find out. Let's give it a go. Okay, moment of truth. As soon as I hit this, the system will be primed, and if there are any leaks, I've got buckets on standby. Okay, that went well. No leaks. I think we're good to go. Let's proceed with the test. First things first, we need to purge any air trapped in here because we don't want air in here, we want CO2. So I'm going to tip this up and see if we can get this to purge. Okay, so I was able to purge that, but mounting this is going to be a problem, right? If this is mounted, how do I lift this up and purge it? So I think that's a design flaw. So we're going to have to figure out some type of mounting solution that will still allow me to purge. It's time to hit the power. I have the pump set to minimum. Okay. There we go. I think we're running. Still no leaks. Okay, so that was a little nerve-wracking, but the plumbing is done. Here's our minimum flow. Let's turn it to max. Not too shabby. All right, next step, turn CO2 on. We'll get our test kits out and we'll start measuring how quickly CO2 concentrations increase and what they reach. That is my biggest concern, is what is the maximum that this is going to reach so that I don't gas my fish. Okay, we made it through the night without any disasters. I don't see any leaks. Everything's running just fine. So it's time to take a look at some of our results, see where that CO2 is sitting at. It's been running at a slow trickle all night. So before we get to that, listen to this. Air is getting trapped in the system, which is not great. So we'll have to solve that. Okay, no fizziness, of course. The drop checker is showing a lime green color, indicating somewhere around probably 30 to 40 parts per million of CO2. The pH is at about 6.25, which is about a 1.2 drop. And the ultimate test here is the CO2 titration test kit from Hanna Instruments. Take a 10 ml sample, add the indicator solution, and then we drop in the titration solution. It'll turn pink. We give it a swirl to dissolve it, and it goes clear. And we keep adding this solution until it stays slightly pink. So we'll add one more drop, and it barely has a tinge, so I think we're at the end point. We'll read the syringe and see how much we put in. We put in 0.7. All right, so our reading was 0.7. To get the final result, we need to multiply by 50. So final result, 35 parts per million. Okay, it's been a couple days of testing and the results look promising. I was able to fix the air leak in the system with a little bit of silicone lubricant on all the seals. There's quite a few on the Awaza filter. And yeah, the next thing we really need to check out is where are we starting on the 120 centimeter aquarium. So I thought we would run a flow test and see what we're at right now, and also what the pH is and what our CO2 reading is, so that we have a baseline. And one other thing, as I was doing my testing, I did a little bit more research, and I've been talking to a fellow on the Scape Crunch forums. If you haven't checked that out, scapecrunch.com. He has actually done this. So he's been mentoring me on this whole implementation, and where I get stuck, he's been able to provide some answers. One of the things is I deep dived into the calculations on sizing the reactor. Long story short, I bought the wrong reactor. I bought the large. I should have bought the small. The small would have been perfectly sized for my 120 by 45 centimeter aquarium. Trying to figure out how I made such a mistake. Went back to the website. Sure enough, it's listed on the website by size of tank. It says anything over 90 centimeter aquarium, get the large. And that's what I did. So shame on me for not doing the math. Anyway, so we're going to continue on. Like I said, we can still adjust the outlet cap to reduce the surface area within the reactor to limit its potential. We can also limit the CO2 going into the system using the controller, which is what we've been doing for, I don't know, almost 15 years now. So I'm not too worried about that, but still a bummer. I would have really liked the smaller reactor. You saw how big that is. It's gonna be jammed in the closet, which is, yeah, it's a bummer. So anyway, let's do that flow test. Bring this up. On, hit the timer, start. That worked well, huh? All right, we're gonna shut this off here. Okay, so we were able to fill our 3-liter container, and I looked at the timer and it was 11 seconds. A little math, that comes out to about 250 gallons per hour, or just under 1,000 liters per hour. So that gives us our baseline. Let's take a look at the pH. Okay, our pH is 5.9. So that's pretty low. So I'm betting we're quite a bit above 30 ppm on the CO2. So we're going to measure that next with the Hanna. Okay, so our reading is 0.4. This time it is a 5 ml sample, so we have to multiply by 100 to get our CO2 concentration, so 40 ppm. Okay, so with all that, I think I'm confident enough to move forward. Like I said, I don't want to hurt or kill my fish, so I'm being extra cautious. I've done the testing, I've done the extra research, I've done some tweaks to fix some of the problems. I've got a baseline where we're starting from. It's time to move forward. Instead of bringing you along for that, which is just installing the equipment you've already seen into a tight closet, I'm going to skip forward to now. Okay, install done. You can see this is a really tight space. We got the CO2 bazooka back here. We have the Waza filter set up, the pump, CO2 system. Okay, so it's time to take the system live, and I'm quite nervous. As soon as I press the primer, we'll find out if I did a good job or not. Okay, so the bazooka here, we have it on hooks, ladder hooks, and yeah, we can tip it up, empty the air out of it, and next thing to do is turn on the CO2. All right, system's running. Let's check pH. Our starting pH this morning, 6.73. There's residual CO2 in the system still from yesterday's injection. Not all of it has off-gassed. So now we'll sit back and watch the pH drop. All right, so I have our 3-liter container back. Here we're going to check what our new flow rate is. We've added a lot of tubing, a lot of quick disconnects. So this will be interesting. All right, I've got a timer here and I've got the power over here. So without any further ado, and start. Whew. All right. Okay, so it came in at 13 seconds. So that is less flow than we had, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I guess it's to be expected because we added, I would say, somewhere around 20 feet of tubing, which is kind of crazy. Now, the good news is I can remove some of that tubing. I have a whole bunch of slack back here, so I'm thinking we probably can eliminate 6 feet, maybe 8. So that should increase the flow to at least where we were. But either way, we should still be near that 250 gallons per hour. All right, it's been a full day of testing. We started around 9 a.m. and wrapped it up around 2 p.m. And we did pH tests and a HANA CO2 test kit occasionally. The testing started at 9 and we started at a 6.73 pH. We wrapped it up at 2 o'clock and the pH was 5.96. The HANA test kit shows that we ended up at 39 parts per million, where it kind of stabilized. I wanted to circle back to the whole reactor size thing. I did speak with the seller. It's Aquarium, Colorado. And we had a very productive conversation. They were helpful and they took the time to go over the details with me. Like I said, I'm no expert. We discussed the reactor sizing and maybe ways to improve the clarity on the website for future buyers. They did give me the option to get that smaller one, but I'd have to pay shipping, and it's a small shop, so I get it. I also learned that they are the first, and as of today, the only to introduce the Yugang horizontal reactor to the market. Working directly with Yugang, which is the guy behind this newer approach to CO2 injection, the reactor is also available in an acrylic version, which may have made it easier to do this initial install by allowing me to see the gas pocket inside, but I don't think it's necessary. And I also thought it worth a mention that they carry a huge stockpile of aquascaping hardscape. And they do offer customized orders if you're looking for something very specific. I know how hard it is to get hardscape. All right, the CO2 reactor's been running for 5 hours now. pH is steady at 5.96, and the HANA test kit clocks CO2 at 39 parts per million. Honestly, I am really happy with how today turned out. There's still a little fine tuning ahead, but the early results, exactly what I hoped for. The water clarity alone is enough to get me emotional. And from here on out, it's going to stay this clear. Efficiency-wise, this thing is a game changer. Before, microbubbles would race to the surface before they had a chance to dissolve. Now, nothing escapes. Every bit of CO2 is fully absorbed into the water, and with refill costs spiking in my area, that kind of efficiency really matters to me. What excites me most though is the stability. No maintenance, no guessing, just consistent performance. That's the real power of the horizontal reactor. Even better, I can tweak the gas pocket size just by rotating the reactor. That means I can push the CO2 concentration to my desired limit safely, and if the regulator ever misbehaves, extra gas just vents harmlessly through the outflow. And if you have questions about CO2 or this setup, drop them in the comments. I'll answer when I can. Thanks for watching, and here's what 39 parts per million CO2 looks like in my aquarium now. No more hiding it during filming, and I can sit and enjoy my aquarium like I always dreamed.